Well met. This has been Brode, and you're watching Born to be
Cosmo.
Oh, snap.
Welcome to Born to be Cosmo, the podcast where we talk about all things Marvel Snap, scheduled on a flexible schedule. We are here with you on a Sunday evening to talk about some Snap. Two big topics that we wanted to cover today, but I think a lot of subtopics will splash in. The much anticipated character mastery feature was released since the last time we joined you. And of course, there was a balance update in OTA this past week as well. So lots to get into. Of course, I'm joined by two of my favorite people, ZombiesGoNomNom and NateWolf.
Heyo.
Gentlemen, feels like it's been a minute since we've all been together.
Yeah, it's been a couple minutes, but it's good to see everybody. Happy to be back, hanging out and all that. So yeah,
Marvel Yap.
Marvel Yap. The best part of Marvel Snap now.
That's the truth.
Yeah.
It's the most fun part. I think it's when I have the most fun streaming is more of the just talking about the stuff than sometimes playing the game.
Yeah, unfortunately, but it is what it is.
It's so weird to me though. Well, I mean, I guess we're going to talk about the balance stuff second, but I was having an enjoyable enough time with the game, and then the OTA happened, and realistically, the OTA didn't actually change a whole lot. But it's crazy to me how my experience before and after it have felt so different, even though the meta feels so same. It doesn't feel like it got changed a lot, but my experience changed a lot very quickly, and
I liked the game a lot better before the OTA. That's for sure.
The OTA looks like it's tightened the matchups a little bit. I don't actually think it's because the game balance changed significantly, but I think that you've talked about this a lot, Zombies, that like the balance changes not only change the balance of the cards, obviously, it also changes the way that people interact and behave with the game. For example, Surtur got nerfed. And, if you went on Reddit when the nerfs got announced, you'd think that they, Warsong commandered Surtur.
Yeah.
And people are just allergic to playing with nerfed cards. So I feel like whether it's warranted or not, I feel like the meta's really tightened quite a bit. And it's really not enjoyable, especially if you don't have the cards that go into one of the top decks, or you simply don't enjoy piloting the top decks. And there's about 3 that are like kind of by and far out front. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't play something else and find success, but I think especially in the bottlenecked infinite on the revamped ladder, although no one has confirmed that ladder's changed, I think it's fair to say that most people who hit infinite every month but are not in the top 50, it's become a bit grindier to get to infinite. Fewer bots, and the bots that you do encounter take 8 cubes from you. I lost 8 to a bot today. It felt so freaking bad.
Oof.
Yeah, so just it's just not feeling great. And we can dive in and talk about those balance updates. I see you pull them up on the screen.
Well, we start talking about it, but we can talk about mastery first. I mean, that was kind of the bigger.
Yeah, so who cares about balance, right?
Let's talk about the real game, the cosmetics.
Yeah, the cosmetics, right? We got a feature that was announced some time ago.
Highly anticipated.
Canceled unceremoniously and then brought back, and we weren't really too sure what was going to be brought back. And well, it made its debut and kind of landed with a little bit of a thud. One might say that the thud was brought to you by someone slipping on a banana peel. Good
segue.
Yeah. So character mastery is interesting. I think that I didn't go in with a whole lot of expectations, so I'm kind of like indifferent to the whole thing.
Mhm.
But yeah, a lot of people are not too happy, especially those that engage with the cosmetic features quite a bit. Wow, that is quite visual you just put on the screen there,
All
Nate.
my decks just look obnoxious now. I just try to
You
make
know
them
what's really
as
messed up
obnoxious as possible.
about
That
this?
is orange.
Yeah. So like everyone has a different preference. We know
I didn't say I
Nate
liked
likes
it. I
we
did.
know
I
Nate
did.
lives differently with
The,
these visual aesthetics
the
sometimes.
pink one. I did kind of like the pink one actually, but nah. I just it. Well, we'll get to your survey in a minute, but the only thing I like about all of this is that for the most part, my cards can all match. They can have the same
Yeah,
background and the
that's cool.
same border. Still not buying borders because it's a freaking ripoff. But like you can do.
We still
stuff
get
like
the
this.
occasional free one, and if you've been
Well,
doing the daily Galactus spin, have you guys been doing that at all?
that is the best part of the game right now, man.
Yeah, it
Yesterday,
is.
yes,
Gambling on Galactus
When I
spins.
can remember,
yesterday I
do
got
it.
500.
Mhm.
Nice.
It's actually quite nice.
I get credits from it almost every day, and that's actually been great.
Yeah, that has been a cool addition. If you don't know, they used to do this Galactus spin. It used to be bad. You used to mainly get boosters. It wasn't very good. It was once a week. And then after the whole snap ban thing, now it is every day. And the worst thing you can get is 100 credits.
It's
And
great.
the
Yeah,
better things are really good. You can get a variant. You can get 200, 500 credits. It's a good excuse to go on the Marvel Snap website and get a free thing daily if you can remember.
Yeah, here, I'll put the link in chat.
they
for
you know what though, they advertise it. I almost forgot, but they advertise it in client, and you can
Well,
click and
they advertise the website and client. It's a very
well, that's true.
it's very convoluted because they aren't allowed to advertise the web store in the game on mobile devices because that gets into TOS stuff with Apple and Google. Like if you might remember, I don't know, a couple years ago, Fortnite got banned from the App Store.
Oh
And
yeah.
the whole reason that happened was because Fortnite and Epic, they were telling people to go buy stuff through their own storefront. And that's what got it banned. And so Apple and Google are very protective of this because they want their 30% cut, which is what they get on all purchases in their store. But Snap has skirted the line a little bit because it's telling you to check out its website. It's not advertising the web store, but if you click on the web store, you get a pop-up telling you to go to the Galactus Daily Spin, which so conveniently is in the web store. And if you don't know this, which you probably do, but maybe somebody doesn't, you get more rewards for shopping in the web store too, as opposed to just buying stuff in game, because that's where they get more of the percentage of the money, and they give you a little kickback for that. But not to get too off topic.
Hey, remind me later, but the new Eternals card got murdered, didn't it?
Oh yeah, yep. We can talk about that later. But yeah,
I was actually looking forward to it, and now it just looks like trash.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. It's on one hand, like I'm kind of glad we didn't get that card to come out as it was data mined because I think it would have wrecked the game for a month. I think it would have literally been a similar, maybe not quite as bad, but like similar experience to launch Arsham, where it would have been like the thing the whole player base buys, and then it's clearly overpowered and it dominates the meta for a month before they're like, and then they'll give us the spiel about how, well, actually, this is the most purchased card ever, but it's not exceeding our balance thresholds yet, before like 2 weeks later being like, well, it's a little bit over the top, guys. Who could have thought? Who could have thought? It's like I've done this song and dance before, so I don't really like the new design they came up with. I wish they could have tried to keep the spirit of like what they were doing with it alive, but
the old design,
the old version was way too strong. It was way too strong.
It was, but it looked fun at least.
It did look fun, and that's why a lot of people have been like, I think the main reason a lot of people are bummed is not because this overpowered card isn't coming out. It's because the old design looked more fun to them than the new design. The new design just looks like Arsham support.
It doesn't look fun, I'll say that.
Not even necessarily good. Arsham support.
No.
We're talking about Esson, by the way, if you're not familiar with the data mine stuff. It was going to be a new build around where it was like your whole deck gets +2 power if all the cards in your deck have a different power. which is a neat,
Oh,
fun building condition.
Yeah, you had to build
yeah.
around it, but
But it was a build around, but I think that +2 would have been such a insanely overpowered effect. It reminds me a lot of
but
how Arsham was really strong
they
because
could have
like
just
it got
changed
to
it to
be ahead the whole
+1.
game. Yeah, honestly, I would have
I mean-
preferred that. I would have preferred if they actually just tried to like, what if we just made it +1? It was also a 13 power back then, and now what they changed it to is after each turn, put a card from your hand that didn't start in your deck here. So he's just like lame Arsham support. You play this on turn 5 in Arsham, and it'll yoink a card from that Arsham gave you or two.
Wait, and so
And-
it has to be on the board for it to even do that?
Yes. Yep. Yes.
It's not going to even
you have to
see.
play this card.
This is trash tier. I'm not even gonna.
It's pretty bad. It's pretty bad.
That's
not
Hey,
a
it's
good
a
card.
break for the resource-starved community members that
We have
can't
that
keep
blue.
up.
It's called the month of February.
Yeah, yet I still decided to open up last week like a fool. But yeah, I suppose you're right.
Yeah, the cards this month just haven't been. I feel like it's been a pretty general consensus. Aside from the season pass, I like the season pass card. It's cool. It's been fun to play. It's a good card. I think they cooked with that one. It's very thematic, and it reminds me a little bit of what I liked about Kitty Pride back when she came out. How it was fun, like choosing to pull the kitty to your hand every turn or not. And this, it's like you're moving the shield around the board. I like the season pass card quite a lot, but the rest of the season has fallen really flat for me. Like the characters and the effects just aren't super interesting, and they're not super relevant to the metagame. Like Joaquin, cool, you can play it in bounce. It's not terrible, but it doesn't give bounce a really big boost. It doesn't make bounce more of a contender than before he came out. He's just like a different option, which I don't mind existing.
it's a
Thaddeus
yawn.
is not very good. I mean, and we can talk about this in the OTA, but
Thaddeus is yeah, it's not very good.
no, like the funny thing is, I don't even think Thaddeus is a bad design, but like, I'm sorry, you have to be smoking something to be like, all right, let's release Thaddeus and then not buff High Evolutionary during the OTA.
Hey, they buffed High Evolutionary.
Yeah, by giving Sunspot 1 power. Yep, that's what High Evo needed. It saved guys. We're
And
good.
Scorpion got an extra power going from a 2/2 to a 2/3. Those are high Evo buffs.
Yeah,
Afflict
surely.
didn't need a buff.
The high Evo cards have needed a buff for so very long, and the whole archetype has been eclipsed by Ajax, which, like, I don't mind Ajax being a good thing to do afflict, but it's just sad to see the iconic high Evo who was once like the starter deck you recommended to everybody, and it was kind of a deck in a box, which is a rare thing in Marvel Snap. It's sad to see how that deck has floundered for the better part of a year, and it's crazy to me to release Thaddeus, which I've played it. I think Thaddeus was a nice addition to a high Evo deck. But the problem is that Thaddeus isn't fixing the reasons that deck isn't good. That deck wasn't bad because it had consistency issues. It had issues where it just wasn't competing on power reasonably enough with the 2025 Marvel Snap. And 1 point of power to Sunspot isn't going to fix that. It's just crazy to me that they didn't revert Wasp or the Thing or something. I just don't understand why it was just so free. It was such a free addition that would have given people something new to do, revisit an old archetype, breathe new life into it for maybe someone who hasn't picked it up yet. It seemed like such a free change where you're not even doing work on deciding what to do. You're just undoing a change you did like a year and a half ago or something. When back then it was too strong because the power level was lower. The power level is higher now. I don't even think it would be good enough with those changes, but it would give people a reason to try.
Blue said he tried it, right? Even like the current high Evo, and it's not strong enough, right? So
Yeah, it's fine with the afflict stuff, but just running like good old fashioned like high Evo straight up, I don't know.
Yeah, like the only way you run it now is you put in High Evo and an Abomination as a little mini package in Ajax deck, and it's just sad to see that because like the Hulk's an iconic character, High Evo's an iconic character. It was a fun, unique take on that, and
Was
the
good
least
while
they
it
could do is
lasted.
try and breathe a little life into it, right? Like, what's the worst that could happen? Do you really think it's gonna break the game? I don't. I'm not even sure it'd be good enough if they did it, but at least it gives people something to try, right? Like, it gives people like the Scorpion thing, the Scorpion buff. It's not the most meaningful buff in the world, but it reminded people Afflict exists and it made people want to play with this old card that was previously in very early Marvel Snap, one of the best 2-drops. Like, that was cool. They should have done it with High Evo. And if you don't do it during Ross week, I'm convinced you never do it. Like, Ross was just teeing them up. It's like,
But
oh, this is
Ross,
a card that is thematically designed with the Hulk and
no,
Red Hulk
yeah,
in
Red Hulk
mind.
is not
And
an Evo card, so it doesn't work.
hey, I'll have you know, my Luna Snow Evo deck is now the auto create Evo deck in Marvel Snap, where if you jam in High Evo and I think Thaddeus, it auto creates the one I made with him and Luna Snow.
Wow.
Which I'm not saying is good, but it was a way to play those cards. But
All right, well, it looks like we're destined to talk about balance over
yeah, let's do
mastery.
that.
Let's just
Get
jam.
into
Let's just
mastery.
jam through it. So
There's not even
All
that much
right.
to say about
Yeah,
balance.
so
they
so,
killed Doom. I'm so mad.
well,
He's
I
still
would-
good. He's still good.
So they killed Doom. They weakened Doom. They shaved a point of power off of Doom. It's now a 4-2 instead of a 4-3. And the Doom bots are now 4-1s instead of 4-2.
No, well, so they
It's
buffed.
the other way around.
They buffed Doom.
Doom is a 4-3.
Yeah,
He
yeah,
got
yeah.
+1, but the bots are now all 4-1. So all the
Oh.
bots lost 1.
But
I
it's
should-
not just
look at
one
what you have on the
because
screen. My notes are incorrect.
over the course of the
Apologies for that.
game, you generate 4 or 5 Doom bots, right? Like,
Well,
on
if
a
you
good
play it on
game.
4, you get 3 bots. If you play it on 3, you get 4 bots. So
Yeah, but then if you play
it adds
Doctor,
up.
if you play Doctor Doom on 6, then like your whole board was getting huge. Like I hit
Oh,
infinite
yeah.
for the last 2 seasons with it, and then almost this one, and then it got changed, and it's like just the power level. It's not like it shaves 1 off; it shaves like 4 off, or
On average, it's usually like if you're playing Doom on turn 3 or turn 4, this has shaved off like 3 to 4 points of your total output on, which
tuned-
doesn't sound like a lot, but like it
it's
does
a
add up because
lot.
Doom is
It's a
only
lot,
winning
yeah.
its lanes usually by like a point or 2 a lot of the time.
It's funny
Um,
because when this card got released, we all said it was going to be toned down like this, and it
Yeah.
took them a while to do it, but they finally did it. This is a pattern. It's frustrating because even if the card is still good, if it's something that you've invested considerable time and or money in, you hate to see it. Which is funny because the next card I've been thinking was going to get a little nerf for a while now based on its play rate numbers, and finally it happened. Wiccan went from being a 4-7 to a 4-6, and it's funny. It's all but disappeared from ladder, at least when I'm playing Snap.
Yeah, me too. By the time they hit these, it's like too late. People were playing a bunch of Wiccan with Iron Patriot, and now that it's not the season pass card anymore, it's like it's still being played, but not as much. I haven't
People
seen
have a short
much at all.
attention span, and so as soon as the Wiccan nerf is so small in the grand scheme of things, and
Yeah.
like I think that's fine because I'm not even sure the card needed a nerf that badly. So giving it a very small tap for like play rate issues is fine. It's just funny to see it like now when it feels like people were starting to move away from Wiccan, and then they hit it with this, and now like everyone's off of it.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of funny to see how that works sometimes. But one thing everyone is not off of is Surtur, though the play rate has definitely gone down. Surtur was far and away, according to the stats. I mean, they even said it in the OTA. Surtur was the best deck in the game, and it didn't have a bad matchup. That's what they had to say about Surtur. Surtur was absurd.
It's
And
the
there were
Shuri Red
multiple
Skull
versions.
of, 2025. Yeah.
Surtur Scar, classic one, get a 0/10, pretty good. Fundamentally, and I know there are other really good players who share this opinion, designing an overstated scaling 3-drop that is a reward for playing other overstated 4-drops and getting a free 0/10 is not the greatest design. it's it turns out, normally you're getting rewarded for building your deck in a different way that would normally be there'd be like a downside unless you build around it in a specific way. Kind of like to a lesser
Doom.
extent, like Doom. Yeah, a great example though was like Agent Venom, right? Where you had to have all these cheaper power cards. You couldn't be running a lot of these higher power cards because it had bad negative synergy. Surtur just rewards you for playing big dudes that were already above rate. And your payoff is you get an above rate 3-drop and you get a 0/10 or a 2/10. Those are really good payoffs. And the downside is you're playing 4/10s. Last time I checked, playing 4/10s isn't much of a downside. And you could say,
Nope.
oh, but they can Shang-Chi me. And to that I say, Armor and Cosmo are in every Surtur Scar deck. And I mean, now we have Scorpion, which is helping a little bit. And also the nerf they did here is helping a bit too. But Surtur, Blue touched on this at the beginning. If you were only to gauge off social media, you would think they leader to this card. You would
Yeah.
think they original Mobius nerfed this card. You would think they nerfed it into the ground to the point of unplayability, when if you play with it and try it, you quickly realize Surtur decks are still high tier 1 decks. Like they are still some of the best decks, if not the best deck in the game to be
It's
playing right
still
now.
by and far the best deck in the game.
It's crazy to see the difference in perception. So what
Yeah.
they did to it, if you hadn't seen, was it was originally a 3/4, and every time you played a 10 power card, it got +3. Now it is back to its original 3/5 stat line. However, it can only trigger twice per game. So it caps out at a 3/11. Even if you hit it with a Scorpion once, it will still trigger that scar, because it can take one Cassandra Nova or one Scorpion hit and still be pretty big as long as you're playing 10s. This did shave a not irrelevant amount of power off of it. I mean, there are times Surtur will lose the game now because they didn't get an extra 6 power off of their Scar and whatever else they played on turn 6. So I don't really mind the nerf in terms of what they did to it, but it's very funny to see the perception of the more general community be like, they over nerf this card, it's dead. How dare they nerf this card I spent money on a pass for? And then if you look at what the more competitive players were saying, it's, oh, they didn't go far enough. They didn't go nearly far enough for how strong of a card this is. So it's interesting to see the divide there.
Yeah, I think just based on data, there's an excellent chance I think it will be further adjusted in the future. I don't know if it's going to be Surtur or another card in the Big Dumb Idiots deck that Surtur is a centerpiece of.
The problem
But
is they can't adjust many of the cards. Like they don't have the design space to
they can make
tweak many of
Arrow.
them outside of don't you dare. Don't you dare. I waited like a year for Arrow to be playable again. She's not catching strays for the sake of
Hey, I don't want
divine
them to nerf.
mistake that is
I don't want
Surtur.
them to nerf Arrow either. I've got Thaddeus.
No, it's
Thunder-
gonna be Surtur or Scar.
Yeah.
I wrote this to you guys over, I don't know, the weekend or something, or around when the OTA happened, and I was like, in like 3 months, we're gonna get a post just like the Hella rework, where they're like, well, we've thought about it long and hard, and we tried a bunch of stuff, and we looked at the data, and we really loved how Surtur supported this theme of making a free Scar. However, with time and the more we've thought about it, we've realized that giving this overstated 3-drop a 0/10 as a payoff isn't a design goal worth pursuing.
We realized we
like-
have other overtuned cards to sell you now instead of you just using your good old favorites over and over again. So
Yeah, I don't think and also they
Yeah.
have a free excuse with this one because, and they love this word, the change they made to Surtur is ineloquent. It's not it's weird that this card caps
Yeah.
when nothing else caps. It's like what they did to Hela, right? When they made Hela have negative power on the cards, they openly said we didn't like doing this, but we wanted to nerf it, and this was an avenue to nerf it. And then they eventually re-examined the design and found a better design for it. And that's probably what's going to happen to this card long term. I don't think it's going to happen right away, especially because there was such a visceral reaction to the nerf, and that's with it still being good. If this is the
Yeah.
reaction to the nerf of it still being good, imagine the nerf that makes it not good anymore.
Everyone
Because people
bought
were
it.
really mad about the Surtur
Yeah.
nerf. Like that was from what I saw, the patch by the general player base was perceived fairly well, except for the Surtur change. The Surtur change was the one thing so many people like hated about this patch, which is so opposite to how I feel. Like I think the Surtur change, even though it could have gone further, was one of the best things of the patch, because Surtur was just, I mean, it's ridiculous that a 3/4 was consistently turning into what, a 3/16, a 3/13. Like those are ridiculous numbers. But in the wake of nerfing Surtur, nerfing it wasn't the only way they nerfed it. They buffed a old school 2-drop favorite in Scorpion, and they kind of talked about this in the patch notes. But it is funny that like almost half of this patch was just going back to like old school versions of snap cards back when they were overpowered in 2023 or 2022. It was 2022. It was right after the game came out in late 2022. And Scorpion was the premier 2-drop. Sunspot was the premier 1-drop. Sera was one of the best decks in the game. Everyone told you to get Sera. It'd be an easy infinite climb. And all those cards got either buffed or unnerfed. Like Sunspot and Sera got their 1 point of power back. Scorpion got a bonus point.
Hooray.
I mean, I've liked playing Scorpion again. It's funny that the impact of Scorpion was mainly just reminding people not high Evo, Ajax Afflict exists, because that deck continued being good. And over the last like 2 to 3 weeks, it had like such a small play rate for not really a good reason. The deck was good. It's just like I think people got bored of it or forgot about it or what. And Scorpion has reminded them it's still good, and now they have a new toy to mess with. And it is become much more popular on ladder. And if people are still playing Surtur, Scorpion's a good way to mess with their synergy. But nothing too crazy here. Like these are they nerfed the 2 best performing things, Doom and Surtur. Wiccan too, but it was much smaller. They buffed some of these cards that have been irrelevant for a long time. Aside from Scorpion, I don't think Sunspot or Sera are seeing a whole lot more play as a result of this, but I'm fine with them doing it. And then Adam Warlock. Adam Warlock got a revert to his old 2/0 form with a little bit of an upside, where now if you aren't winning the location, he gets a +1 point of power at the end of the turn. And this was the exciting one of the patch, right? Like this is the one that got people trying a deck that they hadn't tried in a while, which is like the small ball Agent Venom stuff. And it seemed pretty cool, and it was working fairly all right on day one, but we've had a few days with the OTA, and even though I like that they did this because it makes the card more interesting and more playable, I don't think Adam Warlock is sticking around.
No.
No,
He's not, because they've always described card draw as like this boogeyman, because we're in like a 12 card deck game, and it's like true, yeah, it adds a lot more consistency, but we're also in a 6-turn game. So unlike some other card games, card advantage only matters when you can actually play the cards you're getting advantage with, right? Like if the game ends on turn 6 and you don't have any more energy to play all those extra cards you drew, it doesn't matter that you drew them that much. I mean, maybe it does if you drew a key tech card that can swing the game or something, but drawing cards with this card, it's fine, it's cool, and it works well in that Agent Venom deck, but I don't think this is one that's going to stick around past like the initial week. I don't think you're going to see a lot of Adam Warlock going into next week.
No, I agree. It's kind of weird.
It was fun though. At least they gave us something fun to mess with this patch, because like I feel like last OTA it was a little boring. Like there wasn't a whole lot of new stuff to do. At least Adam Warlock gave us something new to try. I'm all for that. and it's still a much better design than the terrible 5/5 version. So
That is true. That version was pretty cursed.
it might as well not have existed. It was a terrible design for the card. It's just a shame it takes like a year for them to like be like, all right, well, we've tried it and it didn't go anywhere and it hasn't gone anywhere for months, so we're finally doing something else. But hey, who knows? Maybe 2026 will be the year of high Evo at this rate.
Sure.
But
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
that's really it for the balance updates. It hasn't had a tremendous effect on the meta outside of people. Some people are trying the Adam Warlock Agent Venom stuff, which is okay, but not amazing. And Scorpion has made people play Afflict more. The two best decks got cut down a little bit in terms of total output, but Surtur and Doom are still two very clearly tier 1 decks. Like they are
Surtur,
very, very high
especially.
tier. And Surtur has multiple versions. I mean, I guess Doom does too, but Doom I think really only has one good version.
Nah, yeah, you can't. The old
ongoing
one. Yeah, you have to play
The
the
lockdown
ongoing
one
one because
is not good enough anymore, unfortunately, I think.
no,
That one hurt a lot more to lose the power than the Spectrum version.
The
Yes. Spectrum being able to buff up the bots helps a bit.
Yeah.
But the old version was really reliant on Doom for most of its power. So that's kind of where we're at. And Surtur has the luxury of being a Scar deck or a Scream deck, both of which are quite good. So don't expect that to be going anywhere anytime soon. But you know what else isn't going anywhere anytime soon? Bananas, everyone's favorite split combination. So maybe we can talk about Mastery now.
Yeah. So
But
Mastery, right? So for a long time they were promising character mastery, a lot of cool unique things for characters that you had owned and got variants of and spent a lot of time splitting. And then we got it. Well, and then they canceled it, and then everybody kind of complained, and then they're like, "Oh, okay guys, we brought it back. But like, number one, I still haven't unlocked them all for all my characters. I just see this 99 in my every time I open up the game, which is so obnoxious.
It took me like 30 minutes of clicking through them all when it launched.
It's click hell. Yeah. I think that's what Safety Blade called it.
Yep.
It's terrible. But the problem is, like, now we have all the same, like, kind of corny backgrounds for all the characters. Like, they're just the same ones. So we all got the hypnotic spinny background. We all got bananas. We all got, like,
all the low level ones,
circuit board and glass and water or whatever. Like, it's just,
hey, some of those are even higher tier. I wish I had circuit board on some of my cards. But
I will say
level.
we all won with the psychedelic background. Like, that one is good.
That one we all seem to like.
That one is
show. I like that one a lot.
It's pretty good. But like, I'm not trying to be doom and gloom. It's free stuff, I guess, but like, I'm super unimpressed, and I've been harping on it. But my big thing is, like, they gave you unlock immediately a bunch of backgrounds, you unlock immediately a bunch of flair, but heaven forbid you pair the two together. No.
You got to spend money to do that and win the lottery on getting the combo you want.
I unlocked I split Ant-Man and I unlocked red spinny background with bananas. Yay.
I see.
Like, why would I ever use that? Like,
I think you're suffering from a skill issue. I got golden arrow with bananas, which is clearly the most sought after split in the game, which I do unironically use. It's great. Look at the bananas are great. They work very well with the
gold on gold is
background.
Perfect. Yeah.
I mean, it does have a certain je ne sais quoi.
I like using the banana ones just because I know so many people hate them. I think that's like, I'm not a banana hater. I don't particularly like them, but I don't hate them. There are a few cards I think that it's funny on, but I think my enjoyment of them has increased just because so many people hate the bananas.
They're kind of stupid.
So it's very silly, and we were talking about before the show, but the whole thing There's a banana background too. I wasn't fortunate enough to get that combination, the banana on banana action.
What is the percentage of that?
I don't
like
know. So it's
so
really
tiny.
hard to. This is another thing with the system that I think. I mean, it was kind of inevitable with introducing this many splits, but they've really muddied the water on like your odds of getting stuff because your odds change as you unlock new things and level up the mastery. So the odds are constantly changing, and then you have to know which split variant is in which category to know your odds. And I'm going to be honest, I think like 90% of the player base is never going to even look at that and have an idea of what the odds of actually getting what they're going for are here. The simple stuff that you need to know is if you only cared about getting a base ink or a base gold, you now have less chance of that happening. It went from I think like 30 or 35% to closer to I think 20, which is a pretty significant reduction. If you only care about getting ink or gold with Crackle, the odds of that are slightly higher than they used to be. I don't know that off the top of my head, the exact math, but they put in a little protection there. And that was like their nod towards like, well, if you still like the old stuff we did, there's like this baseline 10% protection in there. So basically, before it rolls for bananas or whatever else, there's a 10% chance on your fourth split and onward, before it used to take to 6 splits to get a Crackle. You can get a ink Crackle or a gold Crackle. And then there's another chance on that roll if you miss the 10%, but that 10% is like their I wouldn't call it a pity system, but it's designed to help maintain the splits people liked a bit. And that is higher than it used to be, and it happens earlier than it used to, but it's only slightly higher. It's not a ton higher. And if you didn't care about getting, if getting an inked or gold Crackle wasn't the main thing you were focused on, you just wanted a base ink or a base gold, which a lot of people were in that boat. I was definitely someone in that boat. There are a lot of people who feel like this system is worse, because if you don't love many of the new things and you just still want to ink or gold your collection, it is objectively harder to do that.
Yeah, I'm
now.
really irritated. I started golding my Doom
Mhm.
deck, and I got about 2/3 of the way through. And now, not only does Doom kind of suck, but now it's hard to get gold. Like, it's just, I feel like
Yeah.
it got dumped
At least
on.
gold enjoyers have the silver lining of one of these splits you unlock is like metallic gold, which still looks pretty good and is
It's
very
alright.
similar.
It's all right.
Ink people have nothing. There's no ink equivalent on the mastery track, which I thought was kind of funny.
There is a new gold, like, it's like gold foil.
Yeah, metallic
or-
gold.
Nah,
Metallic gold.
there's another one too, though. It's kind of like the Prism one that we got.
Oh, you're thinking of yeah. There are two. There's
The-
metallic gold, and then I think it's just gold prism. They have gold prism and black prism.
I like both of those a
Um,
lot. The black prism is super cool. The gold prism is super. I like
Yeah,
those.
those are some higher unlocks on character mastery. I think those are in
rude.
like the 20s or something.
And then I
They're a little
thought,
bit harder to get.
oh, if I could do the gold prism with the gold prism flare, like that's kind of rad. But then you have to fully max out your character to get that, and like,
And then
presumably you can't even
can't.
use it, right?
I have it on a character. You can't mix and match it. You have to randomly unlock it as a split, and it's bad.
Nate,
It's
I've
so
never
stupid.
seen you react with so much pain to a feature.
I don't like it.
I know.
I really don't like it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that has been a common complaint from a lot of people. And I think it's one of those things where if you could have a little bit of agency to set something where it's like, okay, I have a preference for this background and I have a preference for this secondary effect.
Yeah.
Like, let's say I love the Wakandan secondary effect and the Wakandan glass thing. If I could set something to be like, even having like a 10% chance to get that, 20% chance, whatever. If I could choose to have a higher odds to get the one thing that I really liked, I would feel less bad about it. And I would feel like maybe it is still worth splitting the card for. But you can't. So the odds are just stacked against you. And at that point, it's like, why even try? Especially if you already have a good split on the character. If you're just getting a bunch of bad splits on a character you already have a good split on, what's the point? And you might say, well, the point is you're leveling up your mastery by splitting, right? And that leads us to the other problem, which is the mastery experience you get from splitting cards is pathetic. It's really, really bad. I didn't think it was terrible when I read the numbers, but like after experiencing the system, I want to provide an example that I think sets a lot of context for this. And arrow being up here is relevant. So I own every arrow variant except for one bundle one. I have the ultimate, I have a few bundle ones, I have all the other ones. It's a ton of variants, much more than your average player is going to own. I have also split the card in excess of 15 times. So you could say, I like this card and I play this card and I've done all the things that mastery is wanting me to do, right? I've split it a bunch. I own all of the variants. What more could mastery be asking of me? And you might be wondering, what mastery level is your arrow? If you have all these splits and you have all these variants, surely arrow is your highest mastery card, or it's pretty up there, right? No, no. My arrow's like level 23 or something, which it's not low, but when you put in the context of owning pretty much all the variants, and having this many splits, it's like it would take another 30 splits to get it to level 30. Now, I don't think the level 30 rewards are worth chasing. I don't really like the secondary effect, and I think the idea of the little reaction emotes is cool, but I don't love them enough to chase it. But it would take me 30 more splits. I ran out of arrow boosters. I'm out. The golden banana tapped me out. Like I don't have any more. So the only way I can upgrade it is if I do it through the bonus booster shop, and I already have a bunch of good splits with arrow plus this banana one. So it's like, why would I keep upgrading it when it would take me another 30 splits and so many of my free credit resources, or if I were to pay for credits, it would take so many resources, and it just doesn't, I don't feel like I'm getting anything out of doing that.
Not worth.
And it just feels bad. So like I went into character mastery, I think, pretty open-minded about it. And there are a lot of things I like about it. Like I did a whole thread on some of the cool combinations I did. And there are some really cool combinations. Like here, I'll put some in the Discord if you want to put them up. But I really did enjoy messing with some of the fun combinations that I unlocked. And even though without using the secondary effects, I was still pretty pleased with the feature, at least in like that aspect of it. But you have to think back to, what is the goal of this feature? Why is Second Inner making this feature? And I think there were two main reasons. One, they wanted to give people more ways to customize the card, and they did that. There are more ways now to customize the card than we had before the patch. Cool. But the real reason they made this feature is because splitting was a very lucrative thing that the whales could chase, right? There aren't many of them. Some might even say they're an endangered species, but split whales are out there, and they do spend a lot of money on the game getting very cool versions of their favorite cards. And I think if you enjoy it and you have the funds to burn, more power to you. Make your cards look cool. But the idea with character mastery was we wanted to give the split whales something more to chase, right? Like we want to give them something more to go after, to keep splitting, to keep chasing, to keep going for, right? And the funny thing is that, yeah, the banana arrow is perfect. That's great. And the funny thing is that from what I've seen from the handful of split whales I know, they're not biting because the odds are too low and they don't like most of the effects. I think there are enough effects to where a lot of people like one or two out of them. Like all of us really like the psychedelic one. That's definitely been my favorite of the bunch. I'm using on a lot of my cards, and that's cool. And I'm glad we have it. But I'm not going to chase a psychedelic crackle or whatever other secondary effect because the odds of me getting it are just so low. I'll just settle for the regular one. Like, yeah, I'm happy with the regular one. It's not worth the effort of trying to get the combo because you'll get so many terrible combos along the way you're never going to use. you might not even ever get the combo you're looking for. And so those are these are the aspects of character mastery I think really need to be tweaked. Is variant or split XP is way too low relative to the XP you get to level up your character through variants and stuff. I don't mind that being high, but 15 XP for the variants is just too low. Once you get a character to level like 15 or something, it just feels like splits stop making a meaningful amount of progress in leveling it up. The odds of getting what you want from the combinations are too bad. I think they really fumbled with reducing the ink and gold rates. Like, I figured that was always going to happen, but because they introduced so many new ones and so many ones that a lot of people aren't really vibing with, it's actually made me less interested in chasing inked and gold variants. Like, I'm just putting psychedelic on my cards now and calling it a day because I have that unlocked on most cards, and I'm not sure if I'm even gonna go for that many inked cards anymore.
So, zombies, I have a question for you.
Mhm.
Do you think that your decision to not chase splits anymore is a unique phenomenon to just yourself, or do you think that the sentiment is shared to the broader player base? I wonder if there's a way that we could make that determination.
Yeah, like maybe some kind of poll or something. That would be great. It would be great if we could just poll a subsection of the community and have them tell us, like, hey, I am splitting more after character mastery. I'm splitting less. I'm splitting the same. I'm
what
not
if-
sure how I feel about this.
What if you asked and 518 people answered?
Yeah. Well, then we might have the numbers we're seeing on screen. And I'll be honest, I expected this to go more towards I want to split less. I did not expect it to be this. Mind you, it's not the largest sample poll in the world, but it's not nothing. There were 500 people that decided, and I'm also running this on YouTube now too. This was just the Twitter poll. I'm running the same exact poll on YouTube, and YouTube has very similar results. I think YouTube is skewing ever so slightly differently. YouTube only has 48% that want to split less.
Oh,
Only 48 instead of 54. So less than half. Clearly the YouTube heads like it more. But largely and what, that is 231 votes so far, but it is a very similar percentage here. You have like 11% want to split more, 29% split less, or no, 29% split the same, 48 less, 12 unsure. It's very similar numbers to what I saw in the Twitter poll.
What about the comments? I'm kind of curious if people, because you said feel free to. So for those of you watching on YouTube, you can see it on the screen, or live on Twitch, you can see it on the screen. But for those of you listening to the audio version of this later, so Zombies has this poll. It says, here's the question. Mastery has been out a few days now. I'm curious how it has impacted your feeling towards splitting cards. I'll be talking about my own thoughts on it more in an upcoming video. Feel free to elaborate below. The choices were, I want to split more, I want to split the same, I want to split less, not sure yet. And so the results was a 24-hour poll, right?
24-hour poll.
518 votes. I want to split more got 8%. I want to split the same got 23%. I'm not sure yet got 15%, and I want to split less got 54%. Like, that's a massive. That's 250 plus people.
I was really surprised how many people. I mean, I guess I was a little less surprised after talking with people in like chat after Mastery came out and stuff, but like I was still pretty surprised that the poll had over 50% saying I want to split less, because I mean, you can see in the way I phrased the question, I wasn't trying to like lead the poll. I didn't say how I felt about it.
No, this was I'm proud of you. This is a very neutral poll. This just said,
I wanted to know, how do you feel? Like,
and even
I'm not going to tell you how I feel yet, but how do you feel? Like,
even
what do you think?
the order of the responses is perfect, because it's like, yeah, more, same, less, unsure. It's perfect. I'm curious what if you got any comments on it. What people
I did get some comments, and a lot of it was stuff I've heard. A lot of it was stuff I've just heard over and over again, which is like, I don't have any desire to chase splits on splits I already have something good on. I might split a little differently. If I have, like we were talking about the psychedelic, I might split a card I haven't split before once or twice to unlock that low level effect that I like. But it really has harnessed my excitement for chasing the god split of inked or gold plus crackle, or going for my favorite combination of the new ones. It's just there aren't a lot of people who are excited to go for that new combo of cool effects.
Yeah.
Which, like, that feels like it was the purpose of the feature. I feel like one of the main driving goals of this feature was, whale or not, it was supposed to be exciting for you to chase that perfect favorite combo. And I'm not even saying it really has to be easy. I get the argument that, if you make it too easy, it's not fun to chase the perfect combo because then everyone has it, right? Sure. But the odds are so tremendously unlikely that you get what you're interested in terms of a combination. And then it's like, if you don't get a combo you're interested in, you can just settle for the base ones. That's the thing, is like, if I get a psychedelic plus a stardust, sure, that's cool, but I don't feel like I really got much from that. I could have just used the basic one and it would have been largely the same. It's not really it just isn't doing the job of the system, I feel like, which is to make you more excited about splitting your cards. And it's, even as someone who is a bit more optimistic on it on release and like pre-release, I feel like I am genuinely surprised by how many people, some of whom were very dedicated in like splitting a lot of their cards and spending a good amount of money to do that, like to, split more than you can normally. The system, not only does it not interest them in chasing the new stuff, it's made them less interested in chasing the old stuff, or feel discouraged because they feel like their odds are lower. And I think that's fascinating. It's about as opposite as what you could want to happen as could happen. It's crazy to me that this has been the result, and I've been genuinely surprised by. I think there were obviously some flaws with the system, and the messaging on it was flawed. But even as someone who's, fairly critical of things, I've been so surprised at the level of which this thing hasn't been liked. And I think a part of that is when something has been in production for so long, and it's taking up a bunch of their resources because a lot of other stuff isn't happening, it builds this expectation that it's going to really be a big thing. And also, it doesn't help when they don't really clarify, like, hey, mastery isn't the thing we said it was the first time we told you guys about it. Because that's not an issue for me, right? Like, I understood what mastery was. I had an expectation of it, what it was. It came out. It was largely what I expected it to be. I'm not nearly as disappointed in it as I think a lot of the people I've talked to. But you have to remember, a lot of people who play the game aren't that like tuned in. They don't know all this stuff. I know all this stuff because like it's kind of my job. I stream it and I keep up with the information and I give people the information. But a lot of people are much they're lower information. They're not reading the Discord. They're not reading all the updates. They don't know that character mastery is going to be very different than the original version they told us about. And so when you don't set those expectations properly, it leads to a lot of people being disappointed because they thought it was going to, like, a great example of this is if your favorite character is, like, let's say a newer character that doesn't have a lot of variants, like Rocket and Groot or King Eitri or one of the other newer cards. It doesn't matter if you've played that card more than anyone else or split it a ton. It's really hard to level up the mastery because there just aren't any variants for it, and that's the main way to get a lot of experience for leveling it up. So I think even with the flaws, and I hope they take the feedback and they iterate on these flaws, because I think there is something in here that's really good that just really needs refinement to actually be what people want it to be. But I think that they just need to like set the expectation of what these systems are and what they aren't, and they just don't do a very good job of doing that. So people just put in their own expectations, which is like it's natural to happen, but I think you could avoid a lot of that by just setting expectations and being like, hey, this is what character mastery is, and this is what it isn't. And you know what it almost reminds me of? It almost reminds me of Nexus events. I know you guys didn't play back in the beta, but I played in the beta.
I played in the beta, but not a ton.
Yeah, but so did you experience Nexus events at all, Nate? Were you around for that? Okay.
I must have ducked out because I got in on the beta and I played a bunch, but I wasn't pumping money into it, and so I got a handful of the things, but I wasn't. I think I ducked out for a little while.
Okay, so yeah, I was a very casual snapper in the beta. I played the game very casually. I don't think I got above rank like 50 in the beta. I was very casual. I didn't play it a lot. I liked it. I just didn't play a lot. I was a casual mobile gamer. And it was fun and I liked it. But the reason I bring this up is because Nexus events, you might notice the second word in that sentence is event. And so what does a casual, low information player think of when they hear Nexus event? They think, oh, the game's going to run some fun event that I get to participate in. Neat. I'm excited for this. And then Nexus events launched. And you know what it was? You know what that event was? That event was you choosing to pay dollars or gold. Actually, I think it was only gold because that was their only $4 currency. The event was letting you pay gold for a loot box. That's what the event was. No quest, no different thing to play. It was a loot box. That was the event. And even when they rolled it back and they responded to all the negative feedback, I think they acknowledged like, well, maybe it wasn't the smartest idea. They were going for like I guess the Nexus events was like just a lore name, like a Marvel lore thing. And so they used that and they're like, well, that's our bad. We can understand how you guys might have thought it was something else, because the name implied it was something else. And I think that's kind of what happened with Mastery. The name, as well as their original vision for character mastery, I think set a different expectation than the Mastery we got by the time it released. And that in and of itself isn't the worst thing in the world. Things change. I get it. I would have preferred if we had some of the stuff they talked about initially, but I don't dislike the character mastery system as a whole. There are things I like about it. But I think they messed up in that it didn't set the expectation right. And a lot of the things people were excited about, which was, hey, I have mastered Ghost Spider, or I have mastered Madam Web, or whatever random card I've played more of than anybody else. I think the title made people think it would reward playing the card a bunch. That's how you master it. But in actuality, how you master it is you buy all their variants or you try to split it a ton, but the buying the variants is much more effective. And it doesn't, it just feels like a credit card mastery rather than like, oh, I've played more of this character than everybody else. And even I think, I'm pretty sure it was Dexter who, he spent a bunch of money on the game. He's one of the larger whales I know of. Even he was like, I feel like Mastery really missed here and should be more of a thing about playing the card rather than just how much stuff you can buy for it. And if that's coming from someone who is a person who has all the stuff, right, who is that kind of target demographic to get rewarded for owning all these variants, if that's coming from them, it's just like, I don't know. I think something's going to have to change with it. And I think the only way something will change with it is if the response to it and the goals that they have, because I'm sure they have some internal goals for this system, don't hit the target. And I don't think they're going to hit the target. I think here's what really made it stick out to me, right? So I did some random mobile game sponsorship and that earned me about $100. And so leading up to Character Mastery, they had a special offer in the web store. And it was like 20,000 credits and some borders for $100, which, if my napkin math is correct, is basically like 2x value. It's not 3x value. It's no Darkhawk bundle. But it was 2x value of like normal purchasing. And so I was like, well, I've been streaming a lot more. More people have been coming out to the stream. I'll buy this for release. I essentially already have it paid for by doing this sponsorship. It's not really costing me much as a result of that. And I think it'll be a fun way to show off to the stream and the community, like, hey, I get to split a bunch of cards and I get to engage with the system, and everyone gets to see how it works, right? And maybe I'll have some fun getting cool splits along the way. And I did that. And, I had a fine stream doing that, and it was okay. And then after stream, I went through my collection and I just started making fun combos like some of the ones we showed earlier out of the things I just unlocked. Not things from splits, but just from like leveling up the characters through mastery that I just naturally unlocked from all the things I had for them. And what really stood out to me was I had more fun doing that, just equipping and trying out things that I unlocked that were essentially free, than I did spending the $100 worth of 20,000 credits splitting cards. It was more fun for me just using the free things I unlocked than actually splitting the cards. And that was kind of shocking to me because I'm someone who likes to split cards. Whenever I would buy like a credit bundle or something, that was usually like a driving force. If I didn't really like the variant, it was like, well, I get some credits and I can go for a cool split on one of my favorite cards, and maybe I'll get a cooler version to play with. I really like that stuff. I like the cosmetic stuff, and I've long said, like, I think Snap has been one of the best card games in terms of how they do their cosmetics. They do a great job. So it really felt weird to me that, like, I didn't have buyer's remorse because, like I said, I essentially got this paid for by a sponsorship. So I didn't feel like I was out money as much as if I was just spending that money on a whim. And like I obviously got content out of it too, right? But it was very striking to me that I found myself having less fun splitting the card with the new system as opposed to just doing the free parts of the system. And that's what made me realize, like, something's not right here. Something's wrong with this. And I think it's not a bad time to hoard your resources, because if I were a betting man, I would say give it a few weeks time. If it goes how the reaction I've seen so far is leading it to believe that's how it's going to go, I think we're going to see some big revisions in this system and changes, because I don't think it's doing what it's designed to do. I don't think it's accomplishing the goals, and I don't think it's going to generate for them the revenue that they want or need it to generate. And who knows? I could be entirely wrong. Maybe there are a lot of casual mobile gamers out there who don't interact with social media who are loving it and spending more money as a result of it. But
Doubt.
I don't really think so. I think even the funny thing is, like, the people who I've seen really like the system, they still have a lot of the same criticisms we do. And that's coming from people who like it. It's that, well, the odds of getting like this crazy combo are so low.
Okay, I did the math in the background, by the way.
Oh yeah,
it's great. Assuming so, just so that I understand how it works, we're taking all the new backgrounds and adding them to the original backgrounds, right? So before,
well, did you calculate the tiers?
Well,
there are 3 different tiers.
Yeah, I did. Okay. Right. So before we had foil, prism, gold, and ink. Right.
Yeah, we had 4 different ones.
And then for flares, we had tone, stardust, glimmer, and crackle.
Mm-hmm.
And then all those came in different colors, right?
And that cosmic one too, right? Like no, you're right. That was a flare, I think.
Blue, we lost your camera. I can put up your thing if you want, but
I'm just stepping away for a second.
Oh, copy that.
But I still have audio. But
okay,
just before you go on with the math, I do have one question pertaining to the feedback you received, Zombies. You said that even people who like the system, have you spoken with anyone that was like, "Oh yeah, this is exactly what I wanted. This is awesome. I love it." Like, I'm not saying this sarcastically. I'm pretty indifferent to the whole thing, so I'm not. But I am curious. I haven't actually noted.
I think even people who like it still have critiques of it. I haven't heard too much from anyone saying, "I love everything about this. It's perfect." Now that could be selection bias, right? Like, naturally, you're not going to yap about something on the internet you like as much as you are going to complain about it. And I'm sure like I've seen one or two like rogue Reddit posts where it's like, I can't believe how entitled people are. We got this free thing that's totally optional. How is anyone complaining? But
Yeah, but
I
does
find
anyone
that to be very
actually
hyperbolic.
right? Well, so even if you were inclined to agree with that position, I mean, that free thing that we've received, does anyone actually like this is what they've been waiting for in Snap. Like I feel like people are just upset that people are upset, which is kind of like such a
Yeah,
meta
that's like
thing.
kind of a classic thing. That is kind of
Yeah,
a classic thing.
but
But yeah, no, it's like I've seen people that basically feel like how I do generally, which is like they don't feel more compelled to split things or chase things, but I like that the system let me do some interesting customizations on my cards that didn't effectively cost me anything. That I made this cool
right. But
Circuit Nebula or
no
Psylocke
one
or Psychic, whatever.
I mean, 8% said they want to split more, so presumably,
Yeah, I think there are people out there that this did hit for. It's just a very small percentage. And I'm guessing that percentage is smaller than they wanted it to be. Plus, the interesting thing here is like, are the 8% that want to split more, are they also the people who were spending a lot of money to do a lot of splits, or are they free to play players? Because if the free to play players want to split more and they're not spending money to split more, it doesn't matter because that's not the main goal of the system. It's very obvious what the goal of the system is. It's to give a deeper rabbit hole for the people who love splitting to chase. But like the whole reason to do that is because the 0.1% or 0.5% or whatever the number is that do that spend a lot of money doing that. If you want an idea of how much money some people spend on splitting, if you want to just buy the boosters to upgrade a card, which I know that's going to sound ridiculous to a lot of people, but some true split whales do this on the regular. It costs about $8 to just buy the boosters for a split. $8 to buy the boosters, and that's not the
switching a card
credits.
from common border to infinite
Yeah,
is
like it's
$8
about
of
$8 in
boosters.
converted currencies, just in boosters. That's not accounting for the credits that you need to split as well. I think if you combine the boosters and the credits, it's somewhere between $15 and $20 per card, or
Wow.
per split. Which that's expensive, man. That's not nothing, especially when you need to split a card 4 times before you can start getting, some of the more chase things like the inks and the golds. And it is nice that you can now get ink gold, or not ink gold, ink Kirby or gold Kirby at split 4. That's cool. There are some neat things about it, but the thing that has just been most common to me and in my own personal experience has been, as someone who used to mainly chase inks, I am a little discouraged from doing that because the odds of getting a base ink are lower now. So it feels worse because I know. And then if you don't like a bunch of the split effects, it feels like you're rubbing a little bit of salt in the wound when you get a cool secondary effect on a terrible background. Like you get a cool confetti effect, but it's on a pink ray that doesn't match the character at all. And it's like, all right, well, I guess I'm not using that. I wish that would have been a combo I actually liked. So I feel like it makes people saltier about it than because I feel like when you got like a prism or a foil, you were like, well, I'm not happy it's not an inked or a gold, but you weren't super like it didn't upset you, right? But I think the new system has actually upset some more people because they see they got this combination with a cool secondary effect they like, but the background is terrible. They don't like the background at all.
Brings us back to the math, right? So if I want that combination gold background with banana split that you got with that arrow that you were showing earlier, what are the odds of me replicating that on my arrow?
Yeah, I mean, Safety just said it perfectly in chat. The issue is everyone got like 3 million combinations they don't like, and there's like 1 or 2 that they really do like. And whichever one they liked is a different one for every person, right? Like my favorite combination of the new things might be different than Blue's and Nate's because we have different everyone has like a different artistic visual aesthetic preference. And so it's like the odds of you finding that one you like are so low, and then it just is going to rub salt in the wound every time you get one you don't like, and there are just way more out there you don't like. So that's what's going to happen. That's what's going to be your experience. So if you already have a split that you like, or you like one of the default effects you unlocked, why would you go down that rabbit hole at all? Why would you subject yourself to that? And I mean, this is also subjective, but the other carrot on the stick that's supposed to make it feel like, well, maybe I didn't get the split I wanted, but I still got experience, which helped progress my character mastery, right? Splits affect it so little, and in my opinion, the rewards for level 30 character mastery suck. They're bad, man. They're not good. I like the
react
idea with the well, it's two things. You get the react emotes, which I think the react emotes are a very cool idea. I don't think putting them at the highest level is the right approach because it feels so incredibly hard to get to the highest level. Like, here's some context. I'm collection level 35, 36,000. I have spent probably at least $5,000 on Marvel Snap. How many level 30 characters do you think I have? If you guys were to take a guess.
0.
What about you, Nate? What do you think?
Probably the same. Maybe one.
I have one. I have one. I have Storm, and the main reason I have Storm is because they gave us a free ultimate towards the release, and she's been in a million season passes and bundles. I have two characters that are fairly close, which are also very common bundle and season pass variants, Thor and Iron Man. But as someone who's spent a lot of money on the game and owns a ton of variants, like, I'm not saying we needed to have a bunch at level 30 on launch day. I get if you want to make it a harder thing to chase. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. But the rewards don't feel worth chasing, not only because it's so hard to level up, but because the thing at the end isn't that great. I don't even like the secondary effect. The diamond secondary effect. I think it's way worse than Crackle.
This is
And
very reminiscent of the launch of the albums.
Yeah, well, you know, it's funny you bring that up because I said this on stream and I think it's very true. I think I've noticed a pattern with how Second Inner releases some of these features. They did it with albums. They did it with the custom card feature and the borders and stuff. They did it with the emotes when emotes first came out. What they do is when they introduce a new feature that has a big monetization component to it, when it comes out, it has the worst rates and often the least free stuff possible. Mastery is a little bit of an exception here because you did get free unlocks based off of your past things. So Mastery is a little bit better than the other examples I'm going to compare it to. But I think the point still stands. When borders came out, when emotes came out, and when albums came out, these were features that got a lot of flack because they were very expensive to engage with. But then a few months later, we got better versions or more free stuff of these features. So what I mean by this is they started giving out more borders. Borders were a part of daily login events. Borders were a part of being rewards for Deadpool's Diner and High Voltage and whatnot. Battle Pass, yeah. Same with emotes. Emotes originally were just a thing you would buy for gold, but then you could earn them through those, I don't even remember what they're called. What were those dumb leagues? You could earn some emotes through leagues. You could earn some emotes through the battle pass. And so the point I'm trying to illustrate here is they made these and albums got, you know, less expensive albums, smaller albums, character albums. And so all of these things became a little bit less monetization heavy and a little bit easier to engage with for either cheaper or in some cases for free with the free offerings over time. And so it feels like they try and juice them when they come out. They squeeze the whales for all they're worth on the hype of a new feature. and then they let it trickle down to everybody else, especially the free-to-play players who probably don't want to pay valuable resources for that stuff. Well, you'll still get a neon blue border for logging in this week. You'll still get a bunch of gold borders for playing Deadpool's Diner. They let people engage with the feature more outside of having to pay for it. And my guess is that's what's going to happen with character mastery, is they're trying to bleed the whales as much as possible on release before making some changes to the system, making it a bit better, making it more fun to engage with, adding new things. I mean, there are a bunch of combinations and things we know from the data mines that didn't make it into release. Like, where are all the Spider-Man backgrounds? Where are the different colors of Kirby Crackle that we know exist that aren't in the game yet? There are a handful of different effects that we know from the data mines that didn't release, and they hinted at level 30 not being the end all be all long term for mastery. But the thing is, 30 is already so hard to get, and that's coming from someone who spent a lot of money on the game, that I don't understand how this is going to work out, because if they put the new effects higher up on the chart, nobody's going to get them. So my only guess is they maybe extend the lower chart, or I don't know how they're going to do it. They're going to have to do something retroactive, or they're going to have to change how the XP works, or something's going to change.
They'll give you
Something's gonna
mastery
change.
XP for participating in the Sanctum event that's coming up.
Yeah, who knows? But the point I'm trying to make is that all of these systems that were trying to be monetization focused eventually gave more stuff to the players after a little bit of time passed and they made that initial money. And I think Mastery will be the same. Here's the big thing I think is different, though. I don't think people are biting on Mastery on that initial release like they did on Borders, because a lot of people bought Borders on release. A lot of people bought albums on release. A lot of people bought emotes on release. You can criticize the fact that they did it that way, but as far as I can see, it worked. It accomplished the goal they had, which was, well, we released an exciting new thing, and if you want to engage with it, you have to pay for it. And if you don't want to pay for it, you get to engage with it a little bit later. And I think that worked for them, and I don't feel super confident that is happening with Mastery based on everything I have heard. Because everyone complained about those things, right? But I still saw people with Borders. I still saw people buying emotes. So the complaints only mean so much when people are engaging with the system. You know what I haven't seen very much? I have not seen very many of those crazy combined split effects where someone has the Wakandan secondary effect on the Wakandan glass, or hell, even bananas on bananas. I haven't seen a lot. I've probably seen less secondary effects than ever, which tells me people are just using the base effects they unlocked during Mastery, or they're using their old splits that they had before. And so it's very interesting.
Yeah, my reaction was like, would it have killed them to unlock the combinations for like the cards like in the past? I know that that's not how like the splits.
924 unique combinations. That's insane.
924. Well, those are very low odds.
You're
Which is
better off
funny
finding a needle in
because,
a haystack.
yeah, in the promo material, they had a hit monkey with a banana background and banana crackle, whatever you want to call it. I mean, the likelihood of being able to pair anything at all is
So you have a 1 in 924 chance of getting a banana on banana split. Imagine you get that and you don't even like it.
I
it's like
mean,
point.
right? So I went through all of the backgrounds, and the numbers are slightly skewed because this includes the ultimate flares.
Mm-hmm.
And technically,
yeah, like the odds aren't created equal on everything you can get.
Well, and
There's
technically,
technically
your odds get a little bit better each time because there's no duplicates, right? So you can technically remove that. Excuse me.
Well, it depends what you want, right? Because if
I mean, all I mean is like, so say earlier today I got red spiral background with banana flare. Like I'm not going to open that particular combination again. So my odds are not, there's not
they go
924.
down over time.
So your odds
Yeah.
eventually. So here's, we can play a little game here. I have the Chat GPT set up to do this. Like it can give me like a random background with random flare. And then every time I ask it, it'll give me a different one, but it'll remove the previous one so that it doesn't
how many times do you have to do it to get your favorite split?
Well, yeah, all right, that's a great idea. So let me just ask it.
We're gonna have a 3-hour podcast.
How many times? Okay, so all right, so say we play this game again, where I get a random background with a random flare, and you keep generating new ones each time the previous one is removed from the list of possibilities. How long until I get banana background with banana flare?
I love how you think that ChatGPT is not going to give you a bunch of trash for an answer.
I mean, it's fun.
Got to be using DeepSeek.
It's fun. Okay, so it's showing its steps at least.
That's good.
Yeah, DeepSeek will give you the wrong answer. It'll just consume a fraction of the power to do that.
Yeah, it's better for the environment.
Yeah.
Okay, so it says here, based on this possible, this is 22 backgrounds with 42 flares. Okay, so it's multiplying those. All right, so here's what it says. Okay, each time you request a new combo, one of the 924 possible combos is removed from the pool. We keep going until the banana background and banana flare is the only option left. Okay, step 2, expected position of target combination. Since every combination is equally likely, this assumes that you've unlocked the ultimates. But anyways.
This is basically going under the assumption that you're level 30 character mastery, you have them all unlocked, and the math will be slightly different because the weighting changes depending on what you have unlocked and what level you are. But it's ballpark enough to get a general idea of the experience.
If you keep drawing and removing combinations, you can expect to finally get the bananas background with banana flares in about 462 rounds. In reality, of course, it could happen sooner or later depending on randomness.
Yeah,
but 462 is the statistical expectation.
So I should be very pleased about getting gold bananas, not only on Arrow, I got them on Valkyrie too. So I mean, I'm really coming up Millhouse here. I get a flex an ultimate finish. Finish is what they call the background. I have an ultimate finish plus the bananas. It's who could ask for a better combination? 462 is somehow exactly half. Yeah. So they're saying about halfway through, you are like, that's when you'll get it on average.
Yep.
So 50-50 either happens or it doesn't. But I think we've done a good job making the point clear of like
the chances to get what you want is very low.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mildly.
And everyone wants a different thing. So it's not like they can just buff. Yeah. It's not like they can just be like, all right, we'll just buff this one really desirable one like inked in gold. And then you'll be fine, because some of the stuff people want to chase, people like the new effects. Everyone has different opinions on it. People prefer certain ones versus other ones. But like, I don't think people are opposed to going for a combo of their favorite effect. It's just, the odds have to be somewhat realistic.
Oh, I ran a simulation. We got it in 98.
Look at that. We're beating the odds. That's like, what? Like top 10%.
So I think that this kind of goes back to the poll. Like, why are people likely to split less? Well, you said it yourself. It's because no one's going to get the combination that they want. Mm-hmm. So they may as well just take what they have and use that, like the psychedelic background or what Nate did with those horrific orange spirals. And just call it a day.
You already have a good split, right? Like you still have your old gold crackle and ink crackle, and maybe you'll still split going for the golden ink crackle, but that's why we had like 20-something% of people saying I'll split the same. because maybe they're still chasing inked or gold crackle, ink crackle, but they're not feeling more enticed by this system to want to split more, which, I mean, that's what it was supposed to do, right? I don't think anyone can realistically look at this system and be like, that wasn't our goal. That was very clearly the goal of the system, was to get people more excited, and it feels like it made people less excited, which is fascinating to me. I mean, I think it is just so interesting how something like that could happen. It's almost like, it goes back to like I mean, obviously it's because of the bad odds, but I think it's more than that. It's uh, choice paralysis, I think, can be a part of it too. Like, we as human beings, we like it. I mean, admit to it or not, subconsciously, we like having a smaller pool of choices because it makes it easier for us to identify which one is the right choice for us. Whereas, so if you walk up to a store and you see there are 3 things on the menu, you're going to have an easier time figuring out what you want to eat than if you walk up to a store that has 20 things on the menu. It can be a little overwhelming. You have all these options and things, and it's hard to really narrow down which one do you really like better than the others.
This is why people like to shop at Costco. Although
Mhm.
not in Canada, because we're boycotting it because it's an American company. But in all seriousness, like Costco generally has like limited selection within categories, and then hypothetically it would be the best one, right? So
Yeah,
can just go.
you either want pretzels or you don't. You don't have 15 different types of pretzels to choose from, right?
Yeah.
And that's good. That statistically and like psychologically speaking, that is how most of us are wired. Is like, I'm not saying there's no value in having more choice, but like there is a very real thing of having too many options and stuff to choose from. And I think that also plays a part here. I don't think it plays as significant a part as the bad odds do. Because I mean, I think a lot of people who like chasing splits were okay that the odds were low for them to get an inked crackle, gold crackle, whatever, because it made it feel really cool when they did.
Yeah.
But now there are so many bad ones along the way that it feels like it adds insult to injury. And if you're not someone who is chasing those specific like sick combinations, you just wanted your base ink or your base gold. Most of the people I've talked to who feel that way, and like that's how I felt too, they feel like a little deflated because the odds of getting those things are lower now. And the thing that's supposed to make up for it, the chance of getting this sick combination is such a small chance it's realistically not going to happen. Like Nate said in his simulation, he got it in 98, right? Which was well above the
It
odds.
was high roll.
I would bet all the money in my bank account that I don't think any of us have interacted with in this game has split a card 98 times. Like
There's
I
only
can
one
only
person
think
I
of
can think of. Yeah, we're thinking of the same person.
No, are we the Rocket Raccoon person?
Oh no, I was thinking of Chase.
Dude, I don't even think Chase has split a card 98 times. Like,
Oh, man.
I mean,
Like
this is
90 is an insane. The only person I know of who I know has split a card 98 times is there's this one dude on Reddit who split Rocket Raccoon to the maximum before release. He got every single combination of splits. I think it's like 100 and something before the update came out.
Wow.
It's hard to overstate how many resources it would take to do that. Like, and that's a high roll, relatively speaking. It's like you're never going to. I'm all for having some chase fun things, but it's
Yeah.
not at that point. It's not realistic, and it's not something you are ever going to meaningfully interact with yourself. And it's such a low chance you're probably not even going to see it from other people, even people who do whale. So it's kind of crazy to me as someone I went in with like I think more realistic expectations of what this system was going to be than like most people had, because again a lot of people are a little bit more low info on it and they hoped it had a lot of the stuff that it originally said it was going to have, and it didn't. But I went in pretty open minded and like wanting to like this system. and there's still some things I like about it. Especially, I'm really happy. The background I like is the psychedelic one because it's a low level one. It's easy for me to unlock. That's great. I like all the free stuff that we got with it. That made me customize my cards in new ways. Great, it was fun.
Yeah.
But that's not making second dinner money, right? They're not making money off of that. That's all freebies. That's all stuff I got for free. The stuff that actually wants you to chase it and presumably spend more money to chase it faster, it's just not there. It's not even close to being there. And the reaction has been overwhelmingly, from what I've seen, that everyone else feels the same way, whether you're a season pass buyer, whether you're a dolphin, whether you're a whale, whether you're a space whale. Like it that has been the universal reception I've been seeing. And it's
Well, there's something else new coming that we can all focus on in a positive way. The limited time game mode. Surely that'll bring everyone together in harmony.
Yes. Wait, before we
Yay.
transition,
No,
I wanna end on something that will stick with people for the character mastery segment. I did the math. What if your favorite character is King Eitri? What if you love King Eitri? He's your favorite card, and nobody else loves him. So you want to get him to level 30 and you can flex. You're the King Eitri enjoyer. How much money do you think it would cost? King Eitri has no variance, by the way. This is why I'm using him as the example.
Okay.
King Eitri has 0 variance, so you can only level up King Eitri through splitting. How much money do you think it would cost to level King Eitri to level 30 without getting any variance? Because again, he doesn't have any. If you were to take a wild guess, how much do you think it would cost to level King Eitri up to level 30, assuming you're paying for both the credits and the boosters? Let's say you're buying the boosters. Again, as a refresher, boosters cost $8 per split. It's about $15 to $20 per split total. What do you think it would cost? $1 million.
Well, let me ask this. If I'm gonna guess, like, is the answer, should I just, like, the number of significant digits in the number, is that how I can answer? Because, like, I'm, like, not even certain if it would be in the tens of thousands or single thousands. Like,
I'll say it here. I'll give you a ballpark. It's in the. It's not in. It's 4 digits, not 5.
Okay, so I will guess $5,000.
All right, Nate. What do you think?
I don't know.
$1.
I mean, it's good. No, I'd say it's probably say 7,500. It's some absurd number.
You guys shot a little high. Not gonna lie.
All right.
But still,
3,500.
No, I think it was like $2,000.
Still, that's
still.
insane.
It would cost $2,000 to do that.
That's insane.
Now you can get boosters for free. You can use your free credits. I'm not saying if you don't have $2,000 to get to slam down on it. But you have to keep in mind, like, it's just the whole reason systems like this are designed. Sure, they're happy that a lot of the player base can engage with it and have some fun with it, but the real reason they're happy is because this is supposed to be a money sink. It's supposed to generate revenue. It's supposed to give the whales something to chase.
And I apologize to our listeners right now because this is going to be a real deep cut. This kind of reminds me of how, like, you were punished in Mercenaries for buying mercenary packs, right?
Yes.
Like it's like diminishing returns of spending money. Like,
that's what Mercenaries did, because Mercenaries didn't have any duplicate protection. So if you were a whale in Hearthstone Mercenaries and you were chasing the skins, they had a special diamond skin for a character, and that's what people like to chase because it was like a special animation. But there's no duplicate protection, so the more skins you owned, the less likelihood you had of actually getting the thing that you wanted, because you could just get duplicates, and duplicates were essentially worthless in that game. They had no inherent value, and you couldn't convert them or trade them or get the other thing you wanted out of those duplicates. So yeah, it actually does remind me a lot of that in Mercenaries. And I'll let you guys in on a secret if you weren't around during the Mercenaries days. There's a reason Blizzard stopped developing it. It's because it didn't make them any money. Like, it made them some money off of the very small percentage of whales who tried to chase it, but it was so rare and the mode was so unpopular, there weren't enough people to justify the expenses of producing it. And I'm really curious. I mean, we have no idea how much time and effort and money and stuff went into making Character Mastery, but given the amount of time it took and the fact that it got canceled and then got brought back, I imagine it's not an insignificant amount of work that went into this system. And as such, they expect to make money back off of that. And everything I can see engaging with the community right now, it's not painting a very pleasant picture that they're gonna make that money back off of the people, because it only has to be a small percentage of the player base, but the people I know who are, and I can think of a handful of people who fall directly into this category where they loved chasing splits. Splits were one of their favorite part of the game. They had no problem spending more money for it. They liked it. It was fun for them. It just worked, right? Second Dinner got it right in their eyes, and they were rewarding them with money. And not only has the new stuff not been exciting enough to like want to deepen that dive to spend even more money to chase more of these things, it's actually made them kind of reevaluate how much they care about splits at all. So they might even spend less than before. And it's just like, that's crazy to me, to design a system that is made to be whale bait, that is made to be an endless pit that people are supposed to chase to make you infinity amounts of money. And the result of that system maybe even makes them less money than they were making before it was introduced. I mean, we'll never know. They're never going to give us the raw numbers, but I do think we'll know based on how they handle Character Mastery in the next few months. Like, because if that does happen, I can promise you we're going to see some kind of blog post or announcement, or if Mastery isn't ticking the boxes they expect it to tick, given the amount of time and effort and work that went into it, something's going to change. Because I don't think they can afford to whiff on something like this that they put a lot of resources into.
Yeah, we can only hope that it'll improve, and we'll reap the benefits from those improvements.
I think it will. I think we can end Mastery even with all its issues on a positive note of like, I have a decent amount of confidence it will improve, because I just don't think the system meets its goals right now, both for the players and for Second Dinner. And usually when that happens, something's going to change, because it's not a good outcome for anybody. So here's hoping. Maybe save those credits if you're not feeling super thrilled with Mastery, and you'll get rewarded for it.
Yeah, so just kind of on a footnote to end the show, because we've been going for a little bit long. Obviously, there was a lot to talk about with respect to Mastery. The next time we flexibly schedule an episode of Born to be Cosmo, there's a very good chance that the new limited time game event will be upon us.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Can hardly wait.
Can hardly wait. So I wanted to just maybe ask each of you, do you think that this will be a well-received experience, or do you think that this is going to kind of further raise the ire of community members?
I know exactly what's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's hear it.
Okay, they're releasing, so they're saying that you can use this event to get cards that you don't have yet, right? Including
there are three new Series 4 cards, which are locked to this mode until after it goes away. Then they'll be in the token shop, and they have a slot in the shop where you can get a Series 4 or 5 card you don't own as a reward.
So here's what's going to happen. Everybody is going to play this mode, and they're going to play it like crazy because everybody has serious FOMO, right? And nobody wants to spend money. So we're going to try to get these 3 cards plus the other cards that we don't own. And everyone's going to be miserable playing. It's just going to be just like Deadpool's Diner, and except worse, because instead of unlocking 1 card, we need to unlock 3 or maybe 4 or 5. And then Second Dinner is going to look at the numbers and be like, oh my God, this was so successful. Everybody's playing it. because we're playing it out of like either fear of missing out or obligation or fear of spending a bunch of money down the line. And like, if I don't get these cards, then they're going to try to, it's like King E-Tree all over again. They're going to try to sell them to me for $100 every day in the shop.
For you.
Right?
Yeah, just for you.
So they're
I
going to
think-
look at this and be like, oh, wow, everybody's playing this mode. And it's like, well, we don't really have a choice, right? Like, I loved playing the 3-round one, whatever it was called, like high impact or high voltage, right?
High voltage.
It was fun. Like, there wasn't really any stakes involved. It was just enjoyable. I could do all my dailies in it. It was fun, but it wasn't really tied to anything. Or maybe it was, and I'm just not remembering. But like, the Deadpool's Diner was not enjoyable for me because it was so stressful.
What was the most?
Because you had to
what was
double
the worst
down.
part about it? What did you not like about Deadpool's Diner the most?
It was, I don't know. It just felt punishing. It was like all or nothing, all or nothing, all or nothing. And then if you
It
got
was
nothing,
high stakes. It was stressful, and then when you got knocked out,
then you had to wait a bunch of
Bro
time.
hit you with the thumbs up. Please pay me gold or wait.
Oh yeah,
right?
yeah. No, that was, so you had to double or nothing every round, and then if you lost, you either had to wait time or you could pay money.
Mm-hmm.
And those are both equally bad. Not equally bad. They're just both bad. Like,
It makes you feel bad, right? Like, it doesn't create the highs you got from winning weren't greater. You didn't feel as good about that as you felt bad about getting knocked out and locked out, right?
I just
That was the common consensus I had from a lot of people was like me winning a bunch of bubs wasn't an equal or greater feeling than when you lose and you get kicked out of the mode. That was a common point of complaint. It was something they didn't address in the diner the second time around, and in my opinion, it's why the diner hasn't made a third appearance yet, because I think it really stuck with people in that second time. But I think going into Sanctum, it's cool that Sanctum is a new way to play the game that's more similar to High Voltage than Deadpool's Diner. Deadpool's Diner was just, it was ladder with extra steps.
You know, the other problem with Deadpool's Diner is then you had these insulting things in the background that, like the Arisham one and the
yeah,
the
but
one
that was
like, you know,
that was like small scale. That wasn't what was.
No,
I think
it was just slightly
most
insulting, but
yeah. But at least you can argue it's in character, right? It's self-aware. Whether you find that funny or good or not, that'll vary person to person. But I want to focus on the things that affected the most people, and I think the things that affected the most people were the getting locked out and feeling bad about it.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough.
And that's gonna happen they've answered some questions about Sanctum, and that's going to happen in this mode. In this mode, if you win, you essentially get another ticket. So you need a ticket to enter. If you win, you keep your ticket. There are going to be a few other ways to get free tickets, and you're going to get, I think, 2 free tickets every 8 hours or something.
Yay.
And so they gave like an estimate of, if you use your free tickets and you have a 50% win rate, you'll probably get like 2 of the 3 new cards or something, which the new cards are priced like half of getting an existing random card. So now we don't know how this is going to work out because we don't know, are there bots in this mode? Are there a lot of bots in this mode? There were bots in Deadpool's Diner. They lowered the bots on the second time around, and they brought them back. And there are a lot of factors that's going to determine stuff. But what's really easy to see for me is this. This mode is going to reward you with the most potential for earning new cards and essentially grinding in Marvel Snap than we have ever had. We have never had a mode that rewards grinding it and succeeding at it more than this mode. It's not even close.
True.
Nothing in the game really did that. Even Deadpool's Diner didn't really do that because you hit the end of the rewards track and you get all the stuff. In Sanctum, the shop is designed in a way where I don't think it's even possible to get all the rewards. Like they said specifically, we put more rewards than you can meaningfully get so people can choose whatever things they like, and sure, whatever, that's fine. But the thing is, it's going to be the sweatiest experience I think we will have ever seen in Marvel Snap.
Yeah.
Because when cards are on the line, people are going to get real serious real fast.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to be serious to a level you have not seen in this game because you don't get that on even on, your Infinite Climb. You don't get that on Infinity Conquest or whatever, like, because there aren't cards on the line usually. I mean, I guess you could argue getting to rank 90 gets you gold, and
It's not the same.
it's not the same because it's smaller, right?
Yeah.
I think this is going to be very, very hyper competitive. And
Yes.
if I've learned one thing from playing and watching and participating in all things Marvel Snap, is that I think the audience they have curated for this game, they've gone out of their way to make it not a hyper competitive audience. And that's not a good thing or a bad thing. Like that's really going to come down to your personal opinion and what you want out of the game. But I think, like, factually, they have focused on getting a more casual audience than a more competitive audience. And so when you suddenly make that casual audience have to deal with all the systems that come with a more competitive system, people get really stressed about it. And I saw that in Deadpool's Diner, and I think this is going to be worse. And it really is a shame because I'm excited for the mode because I think the unique gameplay of it is really cool and it's an interesting, fun, different take on Marvel Snap. And it makes me sad to hear that it's going to have these same kind of issues by locking people out of the mode. Uh, it almost makes me wonder, maybe they should have made the store less lucrative and it a little bit harder to get rewards, but you could just free play it. Or play, maybe, what they really, and maybe they will do this because I genuinely don't think they're prepared for the backlash that's going to happen on day one. Remember when Deadpool's Diner launched the first time around? And this may have even happened. I think it might have happened to you, Blue. It happened to a million people. You play your first or second game of Deadpool's Diner and you lose all your bubs. And it's like, all right, pay me or come back in 8 hours or whatever. And it felt so off-putting, right?
Yeah,
Like,
that happened the first time it came around. I was not happy. I was
it
not a
was
happy camper.
no, it's like, wow, okay, like, I guess I'm not playing your new game mode second dinner. I guess I
That's
shouldn't have
it.
gotten excited about this. And
Yeah.
get this, that negative reaction, and there was a massive negative reaction when that happened when Deadpool's Diner. It was so massive they introduced like a lower stakes table just so people could play the mode. That was for a mode that wasn't fundamentally different from Ladder. The only thing that was different about it was the snapping. The core gameplay was exactly the same.
Mhm.
When you have a mode where the core gameplay is pretty different, where it's rewarding you points on who's winning what location turn to turn and which location is important, is switching turn to turn, the gameplay is different. I think one thing we've noticed from the Marvel Snap community is people have a massive desire for a new way to engage with the game, something that gives them a new axis to play on. And that's part of why High Voltage was so successful, right? Because High Voltage was casual, but it gave people a new way to play the game that it didn't feel like I was playing Ladder or Conquest. It was a new way to play Marvel Snap, and that was awesome. I think people are really hungry for a new way to engage with the game that's different than the game we've played so much of over the past 2.5 years or whatever. And I think Sanctum gameplay wise, I think it's actually it has the potential to do that. I think the gameplay is really interesting and different and can be very fun and give people that sense of variety they're looking for. But if that ends up getting locked behind a paywall a lot of the time, and people have these really negative feelings about losing in it, I think it's going to go down very poorly. And it wouldn't surprise me if they end up making like a low or no stakes version of it, because the negative feedback, I think it's going to be so crazy high on launch day. I think it's going to be exactly like Deadpool's Diner, and they're going to have to concede and be like, people really want to play with our new mode and play this new thing. And they obviously want the rewards, but I think more people want to play it than specifically care about the rewards. I think so many people are hungry for a new way to play the game that they will be happy to play it without the rewards. Because think about it, a bunch of people still played high voltage after they got all the rewards. They just liked playing something different that was fun and casual, or clearing out their missions in a different way or whatever. So I think that's something they haven't adequately accounted for. And it's going to be real ugly when it comes out. And it's not coming out next week, by the way. They pushed it a week. It's not the 18th. It's the 25th now, in case you hadn't heard. But it's going to be really sweaty. It's going to be, people are going to try their hardest. There's going to be none of the bub donating that we saw in the diner, because everyone's out for blood because they want to get the maximum amount of rewards they can. And I just think the player base that they have worked to build, everything they've done to grow their player base and get all the people to play this game, so much of it has been successful because they're not appealing towards the super try hard tournament card gamer. They're appealing towards the casual average Joe who's playing a few minutes on their phone every day. And I think this mode is going to be really rough for those people. Maybe they won't care. Maybe if you're casual enough, you won't care that much, but I don't know. And it's really a shame because, again, I think the gameplay, that from what we've seen, it's a really neat way. It's a neat twist on the formula that Snap has needed a new way to let you play the game you like, but with an interesting twist. And I'm worried that gating it with the tickets is going to, at least in the way they've described from what we know, I'm worried that's going to lead to a bunch of bad feelings that make people very upset. And the people who benefit the most are going to be a lot of people who need it the most. Like someone like me who has most of the cards and has a plethora of resources and can play more than the average player, I will benefit more from this than the people who actually need the cards. And I think that's bad.
I think there's going to be a lot of disappointed people. And I think that, I don't know, my experience has been over the last few days, particularly since the OTA, that the number of people BMing is increased. I feel like this is just going to continue to put people into that pressure cooker. And I think that it may very well explode under that pressure. But we'll see. We'll be back to talk about it when the game mode launches. We'll probably spend some time with it, and
I'm sure we'll have thoughts. And I do want to add, even with all my concerns, I do think there is something nice to say about the mode. I'll throw in a little bit of sugar with all this salt. I do think, even with a paid ticket system, if what you care about the most is getting cards and you are half decent at the game, unlike Deadpool's Diner, where it was very wasteful to spend gold because you could very easily get the maximum rewards for free, I think in Sanctum, if you are a half decent player, the return on investment of buying the tickets for 40 gold might actually get you better card progression than buying a bundle, which is normally what people are saving the gold for, right? They're saving the gold to buy a bundle to get the cards they want. So if Sanctum ends up being a thing where I'd feel less bad, Deadpool's Diner, it felt so bad putting in gold because it felt wasteful because you knew you could get all of the stuff for free. You cannot get all the stuff for free in Sanctum because I don't even know if you could get all the stuff like this. The shop is designed not to be emptied. Like there's more stuff than you could ever realistically get. If the expected value is half decent, if you are a half decent player, I think it won't ease all the frustration and it will still be super sweaty and that will still stress people out. But in terms of expected value of you feeling bad about spending gold on a thing to get progression, it might end up giving you more progression than you would get on a bundle, which I'm sure will work out for some people. But I do think that's also going to add to the stress because you are essentially gambling gold for the chance to get cards at a better rate, is what it boils down to. And who knows, maybe that'll make this mode successful financially. I don't know. This is really uncharted territory for Marvel's Snap. But the one thing I'm very confident about is it's going to lead to a lot more people being very stressed about it. Whether you have good EV or bad EV on getting cards from this, it's I think it's going to be far and away the most stressful mode we have ever had in Marvel Snap by a significant margin.
Well, there's some pretty ominous words to leave on, but again, I mostly agree. I am concerned that it's going to bring out the worst in individuals.
But Blue, all you have to do is get 16 points a win, and then do that 141 times, and you get a Series 4 or 5 card that you don't own. That's not much at all.
I am not going to be getting a Series 4 or 5 card I don't own, which unfortunately are many through this. This is way too much for me. I will try it though, because I definitely want to talk about it, but I don't think I am not going to put myself through what I traditionally would have in this game to try and min-max it. It's just not.
No, it's a recipe for burnout and not having more stress than fun from a game. And games are supposed to be an escape and a thing you do for enjoyment. And the second it becomes a bigger stressor than a thing you're enjoying, it makes you kind of question, why am I playing this to begin with? And that's what I'm concerned about is...
Yeah.
Wait, we're supposed to be having fun?
Yeah. Well, but you're making content for the game. You want people to be enjoying it because it's part of the cycle of livelihood for you.
Now, you don't have to win all 141 of those games because you get points win or loss, but it'll be significantly easier and cost you less if you do win, because every win you get, you kind of have to look at it like this. Every time you win a game in Sanctum, it's like you won 40 gold. Like, think about that. Think about if you played a game on Marvel Snap, but every game, if you won, you essentially got paid 40 gold. Can you imagine what that would do to the game?
Yeah, it would. Well, it would make it even more colorful than it already is.
That, and it's stressful, and people would be more annoyed, and it's I think there's a reason they haven't made it super easy to grind for progress in this game. And now we're gonna see a world where, what does Marvel Snap look like if that happened?
I was just thinking about this. Can you imagine in Pokemon TCG Pocket the 5-win emblem events? They have these events where you have to win 5 games in a row, and you get a little avatar,
little badge for
yeah,
your
little badge. Can you imagine if they locked a card behind that? Like if DNA locked a Pokemon, like a promo Pokemon, behind winning 5 wins in a row, people would lose their minds. And not only is that happening here, it's happening with 2 cards plus, well, for people who aren't collection complete, 3. It's gonna get hot. It's gonna get spicy.
But don't worry. Worst case, at least from what I've heard, you can always buy the cards from the shop for gold. I'm sure it's going to be much less good value, but
I want to curse at you right now, but then Nate will have to find the timestamp and snap it. But that's what I'm thinking right now. No, it's brutal. People are gonna be I'll be honest with you guys, I'm really looking forward to the next podcast. Because no matter what happens, there's going to be a lot to talk about. And I think that it's not just going to be our thoughts on the mode itself. There's going to be the whole the
reaction.
The reaction content is going to be I'm not looking for rage stuff here. I just think that this is kind of
I don't think any of us want this to happen.
No, but we all see it coming.
I'll be happy for it to not play out this way. I'm not actively rooting for it to go this way. It's just I see the person tied on the train tracks and the train coming that way, and it's I think this is what's going to happen. I think that's what's going to happen.
I don't want the person to get run over, but the train is moving towards the person, and they're not moving.
Yeah, and I'm not the person on the lever with the trolley problem. I have no control over the situation. It's just it's either going to happen or it isn't. But everything I have seen and what I know about the game and the community and everything I've seen about this event, which to be very clear, I'm looking forward to a new way to play the game and earn some
one of
stuff.
us.
And it'll be, for me, it hopefully will be fun stream content, something different to do in a month where a lot of the cards are boring.
Oh man, if you think laddering is stressful on stream, just wait until you're gonna
Yeah, I
yeah,
don't
it's
want to
gonna
think about that.
and
I don't want to think
and
about that.
well, at least you got an extra week. You know what? Maybe actually it's a blessing in disguise that drops aren't the same week as the event, because then you won't have to
Yeah.
maybe
Maybe it
this
is.
was a happy coincidence. Maybe this is the universe trying to tell you something.
Who knows? All the only thing we can know for certain is we will be here to talk about it afterwards, and it's going to feel very vindicating if our prediction came true. Like, it's a win-win for us. Either the prediction we have laid out here comes true, and we gotta be like, how did they not see this coming? Or maybe we live in the alternate timeline where the mode ends up being wildly successful and people love it, and it's the new era of Marvel Snap, and everyone's happy. Maybe that's the maybe it's opposite day, and that's what happens.
What you meant to say is we will be here
Groundhog's
to talk
Day or
about it.
whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll be here to talk about it at a flexibly scheduled time to be
Yes,
determined
we'll be able to talk
sometime in
about the
the near
series
future.
drops too. We'll know about the series drops, which apparently are the biggest series drops ever. So we get to see how that
God.
all goes.
You fool me once.
Look, are you telling me you're not excited to get like 2 Series 4 cards you're missing that are unplayable for free? For shame. For
Do
shame.
I own Howard the Duck? Because that's the one I'm gonna get if I don't own it.
Howard is already Series 3.
I
Blue.
know. I must own it. I'm serious to be complete. But I mean, what's the second worst card that's what's the next Howard the Duck tier card in
Oh,
Series 4?
Celine. It's Celine.
I own Celine, so there I'm
you're
getting
cooked.
nothing.
You're
Yeah,
cooked.
I'm cooked. Yeah.
But all that and more in our next flexibly scheduled podcast. We get to react on the new game mode and the series drops, and
that'll be in about 2 weeks, because that lines up nicely.
That'll work out well. Yeah.
Yeah. Can't wait to get free Celine and Silk. Hey, Silk Silk was a good card like 2 years ago when it first came.
That's their criteria for giving it away to you for free. Well, it was a good card 2 years ago. That's how they determine. Oh, what's that? Screams in the meta and completely dumpsters Silk and makes it unplayable. Oh no.
That's like, by the way, it's like I was watching you play Werewolf by Night on stream. I'm like, oh yeah, I really like Werewolf by Night. I'm gonna play some Werewolf, and then I queued into Scream 3 times in a row, and I was like, yeah, this is why I
beating your head into a wall. It's
I was kind of like, I was just sitting there, and I'm like, well, I guess that's a retreat. Yeah.
Oh, I appreciate you making me laugh. I needed it.
At least we're able to do that. I hope you found our conversation entertaining. I am looking forward to talking about the series drops and the game mode. There's going to be a lot to talk about there, so we'll regroup in about 2 weeks' time. Yeah, until then, I'm just gonna invite you. Oh, Schmoopy Daddy.
Schmoopy's inviting us.
Yeah.
Hey, all right.
Well, we were gonna play maybe some games after. So timing's good. But yeah, thanks to those that came in and listened to us. Thank you, Schmoopy Daddy, for the raid.
Yep. Thank you. Good to see
you. Yeah, appreciate you guys inviting us into your screens and ears to talk Snap. It's always enjoyable to be here with you, Nate and Zombies. And yeah, we'll be doing this again probably in about 2 weeks' time. And for those who are watching us live, stay tuned for some post-show content and maybe some games.
That's right.
No, it's always fun, and I'm always so pleasantly surprised how much I hear from people that, I mean, I don't know. We just do this because it's fun.
Yeah.
And I'm always so surprised that the show gets as much traction as it does. Because I mean, Marvel Snap podcasting is a pretty niche thing. There aren't that many big Snap podcasts out there, and I wouldn't even quantify us as a quote unquote big Snap podcast, but it does genuinely always surprise and delight me that I get a lot of comments from people who are like, "Hey, when's the next flexibly scheduled podcast? I really enjoy hearing what you
Next
guys have
flexibly
to say
scheduled
about
podcast episode.
the show." It's it always surprises me because like we just do it. We're just some friends talking about it for fun,
Right.
So
Yeah, we don't lack
it's
any
really nice to see.
authenticity here.
Oh man. Yeah, thank you all for joining us tonight. It's a lot of fun to do this. And yeah, we'll definitely be talking about the new mode in a couple weeks. And I believe the plan is to play a few games after this as well. So till next time, everybody, keep it Cosmo.
Keep it Cosmo.
Keep it Cosmo.
Enough said, bub.